Hello and welcome to Tabletop Oddity. My name is Jay and today we're going to be doing a buyer's guide for Star Wars Legion. Now I'm going to coin this the Clone Wars edition, but we are actually going to be looking at all four factions. So that's the original trilogy, two factions, and the new factions, the Separatists and the Republic. Now there's quite a few caveats to this, we're not going to be looking at the high-end super competitive gameplay. You know, if you want to run the triple Tauntaun Rebel list, this video isn't for you. If you already know about the meta to play, then you probably know this game possibly more than I do. What we are going to be looking at is sort of like a beginner's guide, a beginner's buyer's guide, and we're going to look at a cheap 800 points so you can get up and running quite quickly, but hopefully with the building blocks of a solid army going forward, that if you do ever want to go into the competitive scene or just you want to go to tournaments and be competent, then these units that I'm going to list will perfectly fit in there. And I'm also going to list recommendations for future purchases. So we're going to do an 800 points and then we're going to do future purchases. Now there are certain combos that if you pick a particular faction you might want to get into, like people bought Krennic and Death Troopers or Palpatine and Royal Guard. I'm not particularly going to talk too much about those because it's sort of a more intermediate stage than say like a beginner's buyer's guide, and that's really what I'm sort of focusing in this video on. I have links I have a spreadsheet. I know everybody loves a spreadsheet, but it's just for reference, so there'll be a link in the description below. So if you want to click that, there are affiliate links. So I've got my Element Games one for the UK people. I use them quite a lot. It's my local store essentially at this stage. I get a kickback from that. And for you Americans, I do have an Amazon affiliate link. Now I realise people might want to purchase from their local store. I'm not saying don't do that. It's just I have an affiliate link for Amazon US, so that's why this exists. Ramble over, let's crack on, and we'll start with the Clone Wars factions, but the depth in the Clone Wars factions isn't great, and when I say great I don't mean like good, I just mean there's not a lot of it, because quite frankly it's new and it's going to take a while to get the options. Now the Imperials and the Rebels, they've got a shed ton of options, whereas these guys, at the very release, I actually recommend, and it's coming out, we believe, in October. We don't know the exact date in October. Some people, you might get it early in the fall. Some people are getting them now. But essentially, my recommendation for across all of these purchases is going to be two core sets. Two core sets, like two thin coats, but two core sets. Now, ideally, you pick one faction. Really, this should have been at the start. You should pick one faction. Don't try and pick two or three or four. You might be able to pick the two of the new factions and maybe keep up to date because they're going to not have that many units, but eventually you're going to run out of, well, I definitely would run out of funds and time, so try and pick a faction. If you can trade your core sets with somebody else who is doing the same thing, you could basically, like, you buy a core set, your friend buy a core set, and then you swap, like, oh, I'm going to be the Separatist, and you're going to be the Republic, we'll swap. Obviously, you no need to keep both General Grievouses, you can swap, you can have one each. But really, ideally, swapping two core sets would be the most cost-efficient method. Now, I appreciate not everybody can do that because you might not have a friend who's getting in at the same time. There might already be an existing scene. So I'm just going to assume you can't do that. However, I still sort of recommend buying two core sets because the value in them is generally just so good. Even if you just sell the rest on eBay, you'll almost certainly be better value buying the core sets than then buying the individual units. So, and that's going to be for every single faction, two core sets. And the reason two core sets is good is obviously you get your commander, but you get 4 core units. Now, for an 800 point list, you need 3. So one core set's not going to do it. You also get extra dice and tokens and all that kind of stuff, sure, but the dice are actually quite useful because you don't get that many dice in the core set, but really you're going to get 4 core units, you got your leader, and then you're going to get, well, in this case it's 2, you get for the Republic and the Separatists, you get either Droideka or the Arc Speeder Bike, 2 of them, and they're about 90, 100 points each, so they start filling up. Now the downside here for the Separatists and the Republic, 2 core sets will not get you to 800 points. It just doesn't. It gets you to like 600 and odd, because you can't field 2 Grievouses or 2 Obi-Wans. It's no good, right? So what I'm actually recommending for the Separatists and the Republic right now is not to worry about the 800 point limit. Like, I wouldn't stress about trying to get to a tournament where it's an 800 point event. I would personally buy the 2 core sets, and then I would wait and buy the rest. Basically, you could buy an AAT battle tank, which for the Separatists I think is probably good, because you're not generally going to want to run Grievous with Dooku, because that's 400 points or something in characters, and the B2 droids are going to be fantastic, a nice secondary core option. I almost said fantastic. It's too early to say that. I am going to recommend that people, on almost all of these, I'm going to recommend you get the card pack, because the card pack's going to have stuff like recon intel, grenades, all this kind of stuff that you might pick up as you go along, but you might not, and you never want to be worried that you've just not got enough upgrades. And for like 10 quid, $10, whatever it is, I do recommend the card pack. So let's have a look at what my Separatist 800 point list is. I'm going to have to change into my reaction 2 here because of the way I'm using tabletop. I'm using tabletop Admiral, just for anybody's interested. Obviously you can just click the links if you really need to. This is my Separatist list. I've got Grievous. I'm not really too bothered about the upgrades or anything. I'm not trying to make this a super competitive list. But yep, you've got Grievous, 4 battle droids, 2 droidicas, and then the tank. Now you could ditch the droidicas and get the B2 B2 battle droids if you want. But this is just a very basic. All you would really need to buy from the core, once you've bought your 2 core sets, is the AAT battle tank, and you can pretty much get 800 points. Fine, perfect, right? It's not amazing for sure, but you've got most of what you want. Obviously, I'm recommending that you eventually then just buy Dooku and the B2 droids, because why wouldn't you? I appreciate technically the cheaper list, if you really wanted to go cheaper here, would be to have Dooku instead of the tank. The only downside to that is you've got 2 characters, which fair enough you can use, but it's just going to be like 2 character heavy. Now, for those of you who don't know, you can only have 2 characters and 2 operatives, and you have to have a minimum of 3 core, maximum of 6 core. So having 4 core from the core set, perfect, right? Decent list. I appreciate that some people might be watching this and not actually know how to play it. Now, there's been a video from the 5th Trooper, and if I can remember, I'll put a link in the description. Pretty damn good video where it just goes through the basics of how to play it. I will definitely link that because it is pretty damn good. Quickly moving on then, let's have a look at the Republic. So the Republic, again, I've got always going with these 2 core sets, and then it's actually nice to cheaper version of this is that you can get just Rex when he comes out. Again, you're not going to be able to get to 800 points very easily when the game comes out. You technically can, by the way, get to 800 points if you buy the individual core trooper unit. So if you buy just the B1 trooper unit or the phase 1 trooper unit, if you buy an extra 2 of them and 2 core sets, you will get to 800 points. But it's just not going to be like, it's not that it's not competitive, but it's not even fun to have so many of the same unit. Like, I just think at this stage, when you first buy the game, you're not going to want to paint 6 units of battle droids. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but for those people, you could just buy 2 core sets and then 2 trooper units. I just don't recommend that. I'd suggest you just wait and buy Rex. And then obviously you can buy the phase 2 clone troopers. They're going to be interesting. And then they've got their own tank. So I'll just very quickly show you this list. And I'll ditch that over to this one. It's giving me this list at the top. But yeah, Obi-Wan, Rex, we don't necessarily know his upgrades or what will even work on him. So sometimes I just leave a bit of points to spare. 4 clone troopers and the Bark Speeder. This is the elite faction basically, so the clones, if you don't want to paint a lot of models, this is definitely the faction for you. So that's basically it for the Clone Wars factions. It's really hard to put like a buyer's guide together for the Clone Wars factions when there's not even that many options. The main things I would suggest is 2 core sets, of course, because those core troopers are always pretty much going to be useful. There's a lot of things being announced, like I've not even put on here, but there's an upgrade pack for the B1 troopers and the phase 1 troopers. Whether or not you're going to want to buy those, they're apparently scheduled for December. It's hard to say. I just want to go, if you go with these options, like buying essentially one of everything and 2 core sets, you're going to always have pieces of a very sensible, good army. That's basically what this boils down to. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. If you've got any questions, obviously just let me know in the comments if I've missed anything out. If you can't trade, it's not necessarily a problem. Now you will notice that the core set has gone up for the Clone Wars version, because the original trilogy version you can get for about 60 quid basically, and that's because they've upped the game in terms of plastic. and that kind of thing. So yes, I personally am not recommending you rush to 800 points by buying the Phase 1 clones or the Battle B1 droids, but it is possible if that's something you want to do. And ultimately, it might even end up being the better list, you know, because at the beginning of the factions for the original trilogy, definitely 6 Z6 troopers for the Rebels was the meta, and they were essentially from the core set. You could build them from the core set. So, yeah. I'm not saying don't do it, but that's sort of maybe like a high meta idea rather than for beginners. I just personally wouldn't recommend that. And then we'll have a look at the Imperials. I've changed the list from when I first did this, like in 2018. I've basically added in Vader here. So again, 2 core sets, £68 from Element Games, $62 if you're in the US from Amazon. The Scout Troopers, you can either run them as a full unit or the Sniper Teams. The Sniper Teams have been slightly nerfed, but are still useful. And I've gone with Bosk over Vias, simply because Bosk is actually cheaper and will fit in with Vader a little bit better. So let me very quickly show you this list. This is the Imperial list. Again, I'm not saying this is the best list, right? I'm just not saying that. The best list at the minute, I probably like Krennic and Bosk, with Death Troopers maybe, or even Via's Bubba still. Obviously, speeder bikes have come down in points, and so has Darth Vader. I do recommend if you are going to play these, definitely check out the new points on the FAQ, the errata, the rules list basically. Vader kitted out Bosk naked, 4 DLT troopers, just a 2-man strike squad for the Scout Troopers, and then the speeder bikes. So everything here, it's the core set. So the Stormtroopers are core set, Vader's a core set, and the speeder bikes are the core set. The only thing you would then buy, which you can buy right as of today, would be Bosk and Scout Troopers. That's if you want to run Vader, the Vader list, right? But a lot of people don't want to, like, Vader's come down in points, but he's still, you know, maybe you don't want to run him because he has a lot of points. So then I would recommend these purchases. Now I've put a little star here against my full-on recommendations. Like Vias is going to be worth it for £11 for sure. Boba Fett also worth it. But whether or not you want to have Boba Fett and Bosk is a question, you know, only you want to answer. Some people run Vias, Boba Fett and Bosk, which is a fairly decent list. You can run Krennic and Bosk if you want. You can run Krennic, Boba Fett and Bosk if you want. But for example, Krennic and Death Troopers often get paired together because they have entourage together. Palpatine and the Royal Guard, they get paired together. There are a lot of options, but these generally are units you're going to see a lot on the table as of right now. So that's why I've put them here. There are certain combinations. If you really do want to get like much better at the game, like full on competitive, then I'd suggest just look at like the list that the top players are using at the top events. But you won't go wrong if you're just getting into the game. You will not go wrong buying these. And I still recommend you buy the card pack because I think it's just good value for 10 quid. Yeah, I recommend the card pack. For the Rebels then, this is the Rebel Buyer's Guide. It's very similar to what I used to recommend, which is basically core set. 2 core sets, obviously. Leia is really good value. She just fits into a lot of lists. She's actually just, well, I was going to say OP, but she's absolutely fantastic. And again, the Rebel Commandos are the Sniper Team. Perfect, right? Let's have a quick look at this list. This is the 800 points list that is reasonably cheap that you can get quite easily. It's Luke kitted out, Leia, 4 troopers, the full-on sniper unit this time, and the AT-ATs, which have been, they haven't themselves come down in points, but the weapons have, so that they're now 75 points each. They're going to be pretty potent on the table. So yeah, all you need to buy for that is 2 core sets, Leia and the Rebel Commandos. You've got a decent team. Let's switch back to this. And then my recommendations after that, the Tauntauns right now are seen as really, really strong. 3 are being run, but you don't necessarily have to buy 3. And then honestly, the rest is actually pretty difficult to pick. Sabine's quite good. Han and Chewie's come down in pants. Han is like mediocre maybe. I said Sabine's quite decent. Rebel Commandos are also very good, but Jyn has come down in points. The Pathfinders have had a little bit of a buff. You know, there's quite a few things for the Rebels. The Land Speed is okay. The Air Speeder, which was laughed off the table, has come down in points now, so it's actually vaguely usable. I think we need time to really settle on what's actually going to be good for the Rebel faction going forward. I'm not 100% sure where the peak list will be. The Triple Tauntaun list is a bit cheesy, but you know, it's decent. So if you really wanted to run it, fine, crack on. It seems like it would be pretty fun. But that's it. They're all through 4 of the factions. As I said, I understand that people might not be able to share the core sets. That's why I've listed the prices of you just buying them at full value. If you can split a core set or 2 core sets with a friend, please do that. Pick one faction, split, and try and focus on that one faction. I know that the Separatists and the Republic at the moment are difficult to get to 800 points. If you really do want to get to 800 points, you can just buy more of the core trooper that comes out at release. Like you buy 2 core sets. You could even buy 3 core sets if you if you really wanted to go like crazy on it, and just eBay the rest. Like get rid of it. Try not. I wouldn't play in all of them. Maybe keep Grievous or Obi-Wan or what have you, just so you can have them as a maybe even like dead on your bases or whatever, but try and pick one faction. That is highly recommended. And there's just not that many options to say what's good or bad for the Clone Wars factions, whereas for the Rebels and the Imperials there's almost the opposite problem, where there are almost too many, and there's certain combos that are good, like Jyn and the Pathfinders are better, they work better together. But as I said, Death Troopers and Krennic, etc. Death Troopers and Krennic, Palp and the Royal Guard. There's combos out there that if you really want to pick a faction, you really want to become really good at that faction, what I've listed here will be decent, but you might want to find out a play style that you actually particularly want to use. The link to this will be in the description. If you do use the affiliate links, I do get the kickback. I don't know. It's better that I disclose that. Obviously, I would never try and not disclose that. But yes, and I would please do. Like, it helps me, so please do. Also, like and subscribe. Have a most beautiful day. If I missed anything or you have any concerns or queries, let me know in the description below. Have a beautiful day and goodbye.